Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. In our first story, OP finds several legal loopholes that allow him to work less and get more income without his boss even noticing. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Dissolve my department, demote me, and expect the same output? You got it, boss. I work in a highly specialized field where it's very difficult to find and train suitable personnel. By pinching pennies and not holding his promises about pay grade changes, my boss successfully drove away the 3 specialists working in the department I led. Right before the last one put in her notice, he argued that a 2-person department didn't justify a leadership position and demoted me, and we were integrated, on paper, to another department. This was done outside of any legal framework and with a 1-week notice, which is illegal. During the reorganization, the manager of the department we joined was assigned to R&D, and another manager and his deputy promoted to lead the department's daily business. We effectively had no less than 3 supervisors, all of them lacking managerial training and technical knowledge about the duties of our now-defunct department, and only one of them can read the language in which 50% of our reports are written. Right after the reorganization, I was granted one last meeting with the boss, where I pointed out that several of my duties cannot be bestowed upon the mere foot soldier I'd become, nor taken over by the new leadership. He answered that his decision was final. I was to revert to my previous job description and take up any future matter with my new supervisors. I did just that, and some more. I read the state law and ordinance about state and university employees. Should have done it earlier in hindsight. I discovered that the illegal move by my boss doesn't carry any penalty, so there's F I can do legally. I'm allowed to take on private mandates for anything that's not explicitly mentioned in my job description. It's a gift normally meant for professors. I get to take up to 15 days of additional paid leave per year to hold a public office. The pay grade I reverted to doesn't match my responsibilities today, even excluding the absence of leadership position, and there's an independent procedure with state HR to reevaluate the pay grade. The kicker? My old job description that dates back to 7 years before is short, to say the least. 3 lines that don't even cover 50% of what my duties in the last 7 years consisted of. And I have a side gig as a retained firefighter and fire instructor, for which I use to take vacation days. This counts as a public office according to state law. The fallout? My new managers both signed the authorization to take on private mandates in public office without understanding the implications. I used all of the 15 days where I legally get paid by the FD and my employer at the same time. I took on several private mandates totaling nearly an additional month of salary for 4 days of work, and the pay grade reevaluation has brought me back to the same income as with the previous leadership position. Oh, and since my specialty now has a bus factor of 1 and my new supervisors have been unable to staff the open positions, it was very unlucky that I fell ill at the time where I had to submit paperwork for a research grant, costing the institution $30,000 in lost research funds. Edit. I use the expression private mandate, which is a direct translation of the state law legalese. Think of it as taking the contract in my name as opposed in the institution's name and working on it outside of my regular hours. It's not exactly like a contractor, though, because as a member of the institution, I'm still bound by some rules that don't apply to contractors. It's very weird and would not be possible if the transition had been planned and managed properly, with an update of my job description, for example. When you leave, I hope you submit a list to their bosses of what your boss's choices cost the company after you notified them of the problems. And our second story. Live in a rental for over a year without paying rent? Good luck in jail. Last summer, I bought a house trailer and decided to rent it out. It needed some work, so I posted 2 months free rent for putting carpet down in the living room, hooking up the hot water heater, and putting in a toilet. Got a nice couple with a newborn willing to do it? Great. No lease, month to month, no security deposit, and the rent was $450 a month. So they did the work, so I didn't ask for rent for 2 months. Everything was fine. Side note, there are a few little state laws that come into play. If you don't pay rent for 3 consecutive months, you are considered a squatter, which means the landlord doesn't have to fix the property and can actually padlock it and deny you entry. If you're on house arrest and get formally evicted, you could be violated for it. Also, you can be formally evicted even if you've already moved out, so the landlord can get rent due. Also, even though there are eviction bans, if it happened before the ban, then it can still go through, plus a few other conditions that still allow someone to be evicted. It's up to the judge, really. Fast forward 5 months and still no rent money. Yes, they had a newborn and they were young and didn't have a lot of money, but the husband can spend $1,500 on a new engine for his project car. They can afford to go out and eat and spend money on electronics, but no rent. So after that 3rd month, I did nothing. The weather was turning cold, I didn't put in the furnace like I promised, and if they hadn't had a newborn, I would have padlocked the house. They were bragging about their tax refund. I gave them a shot to catch up, and they basically said that they knew their rights and they were in a rent strike. Illegally, I might add. You'll see later. COVID happened, husband got laid off, so I gave them a break. When he went back to work, I asked for back rent again and was told to F off. I finally had enough. I told them they had 14 days to get out or I was doing a formal eviction, and seeing as he was on house arrest, he knew what that meant. I honestly was trying to keep him from having to go back to jail and keep an eviction off their record. I was trying to be nice and civil. So they left and I cut my losses until I checked the property. Everything they put in, they removed. Everything they got free rent for was gone. I got PO'd and filed for a formal eviction. It didn't go as they hoped. They said I didn't provide heat, so they went on a rent strike. Only they didn't file that with the courts or hold the money aside. They just thought they could stop paying rent. What they put into the trailer was less than the rent. The judge agreed with me that seeing they took everything I was due those 2 months' rent, and the biggest, he started slamming my character, so I said, "Well, you didn't tell me you were going to be on house arrest when you rented the property." Before the judge looked bored, but he perked up. He asked them if that was true. They responded that it was, and he was ready to make his ruling. I received 15 months back rent at $450 a month and $2,000 in damages because the way they removed the stuff, they damaged a lot of things. As for him, the judge said he had no choice but to turn the eviction over to his parole officer. Fast forward to this month, his house arrest was violated and he was arrested. They actually had the nerve to ask me to speak on his behalf. I didn't. Ruling was his remaining 6 months and are now being spent in jail. They have a bad eviction on their record and they owe me money. Know the law before you play the game. And our last story. All walkouts suck, but this one was very different. My coworker, Sarah, name changed, had a walkout last night. The table that walked out included 3 20-something-year-olds, 2 guys and a girl. The girl happened to go to high school with my coworker who was serving them. The two spent a good portion of the night catching up, having a good time, and everything was going smoothly. After ordering $80 worth of food and drinks, the table walked out on their bill. Sarah was PO'd. Since we scan and save IDs at my bar, we permanently flag anyone who's walked out on their tab and ban them from re-entry, unless, of course, they come back to pay their tab and apologize for their lapse in judgment. The ID saving system is also linked with other bars in the city that use the same brand, so if someone were to be banned from our bar, all other participating bars would be notified and able to ban them as well. Sarah figured she'd message this girl on Facebook and let her know she should come back and pay her bill to save her from that major inconvenience, instead of telling her that she was a huge piece of crap, but my coworker kept it cordial. The girl never responded to my friend. The next day, however, the girl who walked out called the restaurant asking to speak to the manager. My manager, a seasoned vet who doesn't take crap from anyone, answered the phone. Every morning he reads over the log from the night before, so he knew of everything that went down, including the walkout. However, he wasn't aware that Sarah had messaged this girl on Facebook. The girl proceeded to log a complaint about a server who waited on her the previous night. "Your server, Sarah, found me on social media and harassed me. It was really unprofessional and I'm super creeped out by it. You shouldn't employ people who stalk their customers and send them threatening and offensive messages." My manager, somewhat shocked at first, was about to find out more information about this cyber harassment, but remembered that Sarah was the server with the walkout from the night before. "I apologize if you felt uncomfortable by one of our server's actions, but harassment sounds unusual for Sarah. She's one of our best servers. What exactly did Sarah say in these messages?" "She said that I need to come in and pay my tab or she would ban me from every bar in the city and I'd never be able to eat out again." My manager paused. "What do you think she meant by pay your tab. Well, we didn't pay our tab. Completely blown away, my manager didn't know how to respond. So, I'm going to need you to pay your tab. And here's where this girl went from complete idiot to complete idiot trying to be a delusional CB. Well, I am not paying for our tab now, no way. I'm not going to give money to a restaurant who employs people who harass customers. I'm honestly so scared and creeped out that I'm going to call the police. Actually, the only way I won't call the police is if you promise you're going to fire this server. So you're not going to pay your tab that you walked out on. No, are you even listening to me? You guys should be paying me for what I went through. You should be lucky that all I'm asking for is this server to be fired so I won't call the police. To buy some time to unpack the crazy my manager just heard, he told this chick that he'd talk it over with his supervisors and he'd call her back. Sarah happened to be working that day, so he asked to see the Facebook messages. Sarah sent this girl exactly one message that said, "Hey, you walked out on your tab with me. You can come in and pay it tomorrow. Just make sure you come in because the ID system will ban you from our place and maybe some other bars if you don't pay." My manager called this psycho back. "Ma'am, I just read the messages Sarah sent you on Facebook. Sarah was trying to help you. We ban people from our bar who walk out on their tabs, so when would you like to pay for the $80 plus an added 20% gratuity?" No, Sarah should have never messaged me in the first place. My social media profile is private. I want her fired. Well, that's not happening, and we'll be banning you and your friends if you don't pay for your bill. The girl was screaming at this point, "I'm calling the police for harassment and piracy. You looked at my private messages. I'm not paying." My manager, laughing in complete shock, "Okay, go for it. Tell them we'd love to talk to them too. Enjoy your day." Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.